Obviously.
Hi folks, welcome to the third episode of Gardening in Nakusp with Ray. So today we're going to just start out in the kitchen, and what I'm trying to do now is clean out the root cellar and use up squash and things like that not going to last very long. So this morning while I was in the house, I just cooked up some squash and I'm going to turn that into some nice squash soup tonight for supper. The nice thing about that is I can use up onions, and the purple onions seem to go the first, so I'm usually trying to use those up first before the yellow onions. And 2 years ago I had a bad garlic crop and they were spoiling. And so Gail, who lived here at the time, bless her heart, she peeled a bunch of them. We put them in olive oil and threw them in the freezer. And then, so they just kept fine there. So I've been trying to use those up out of the freezer too. And then squash soup, it's always nice to have some apple in it, either apple cider, apple juice, but I happen to have some apple sauce. And I got some curry paste in the fridge and some ginger, so there's a nice squash soup.
What's this cabbage doing back here?
Well, I cleaned up all the cabbages, and so I've used up all the carrots, all the beets. This is the last of the cabbage. I got one in the fridge, and Jo, bless her soul, is going to take these home with her and use those up too. So the cabbage, I didn't throw any cabbage away this year. Last year I threw a few away.
I will take good care of it.
Great, thank you. But yeah, all I have left is potatoes. I'll just get out of the frame for a minute, and when I was down there I thought, oh, I've got these, the cylindrical beets. It turns out I've got these purple potatoes. They're just nice and solid. They're just great. So I'm going to use those up, and then I got a few yellow ones down there, some Yukon Golds as well too. I'm quite happy that I got the root cellar all used up and didn't have to throw things away. Or I turned some into borscht as well. So what to do if you have cabbage and carrots and beets and potatoes that are kind of getting a little funky in the root cellar is turn it into borscht before it gets too bad, obviously. So yeah, so it's just Dukabor borscht, which I got from this Dukabor recipe from when I worked at the Spokane Valley Co-op. Potatoes, carrots, beets, cabbage, tomatoes, so all the stuff that's handy in your root cellar. And I'm trying to empty out the freezer as well too, so what I'm doing is I'm canning it up. So I have a pressure canner, because it's got vegetables and cream and butter, but although I cut way back in the butter, it's better to put it in the pressure canner. And so I'm just loading it all up. So that's the nice jars. Wow. So I made a double batch, although the Dukabor batches are big anyway. But I made a double batch because while you're at it, you might as well just make more. I got 7 quarts, and then I have this left over too, which I will can. So I'll probably get another 4 quarts or so. Well, that's 11 quarts, and because it'll be canned, it'll be safe, it won't go bad, and just 11 meals there just waiting for you.
Damn.
Yeah, so the jars are all in. It's all closed up tight. I didn't put the weight on yet. What you have to do is you have to let it steam. This will pop up and then it'll steam out. So let it steam for about a minute so you know there's lots of steam inside there. And then you put the weight on here. Let it come up to 15 or so here because of our altitude. And then what you do is you try to figure out, it's got a lot of potatoes in there, so I look up potatoes and see how long they should can for. And I forget now what it is, but so then I'll leave it on the canner for that amount of time for the potatoes. And it's really, once this gets up to pressure, you have to turn it down very low because it doesn't take much to maintain it at that pressure. So it's really nice way you don't have to use a lot of electricity to can it that way.
So it takes how much time in comparison to if you're just going to put it in a pot and boil it?
Water bath.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, water bath.
Well, traditionally, you should only use like the water bath for fruit and pickles and tomatoes and that kind of stuff. If you're doing any kind of vegetable stuff, then it's better to do it with a pressure canner. On the other hand, my mother was old school and she just water bathed everything. And, before we even had freezers, she used to even can beans, like the green beans. Yeah. They were kind of mushy.
No one told her that.
No. They're good. She did everything on the water bath because probably when she grew up she didn't have a pressure canner.
Right.
So she just carried on what she learned.
Yeah. I've
read about it and I just thought, I'm going to do the proper thing and use a pressure canner. So that we'll just have to bring it up to steam and then, oops, I should put this off.
We're not ready for the weight yet.
No.
What's the weight do?
The weight keeps it, I don't know, it just keeps it proportioned. So the weight starts to, all of a sudden if you hear, you know it's gone past 15, it's getting into the danger zone.
Oh, okay. And then what do you do?
Then you drop the heat or pull it off the thing.
Okay. Yeah, these scare me sometimes.
But if you, if you're just cautious with it, then it's great, and it's easy, and it's reliable, and it's safe.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared of the pressure canner.
Okay.
It's your helper.
No doubt.
And then I made a curry cabbage chicken soup as well too. So I turned some of the cabbage into soup, which it's canned, so pressure canned, so it'll keep for a long time. So that's it for the kitchen section. So we have lots to see, and so we'll go out to the grow rooms and the greenhouses, and so we'll meet you out there. Thanks. So we're in the propagation grow rooms. I planted the brassicas on the 21st of March, and on the 27th of March, the next weekend, they were getting a little bit leggy and falling over. So I thought I'm going to prick them out and put them into pots and bury them deeper so that they're nice and firm and not falling over. So there's the green cabbage, and so now they're nicely buried deep, and they're in good soil, good pots, and that good amount of light, so they've got perfect conditions. So now they're not getting leggy, and they're getting their true leaves and looking great.
Because our celery was getting pretty leggy too, and so we were thinking about getting her into some deeper soil.
I had that with mine too. They were starting to fall over and getting really strange, and I was kind of, I thought this is not very good. So I buried them a little bit deeper, and they look great now. We'll see them when we go out that way. Down below here, we have what does that one say? Oh, the broccoli's there. Yeah. Broccoli and cauliflower. So the broccoli, I don't mind having a bit of a stalk because they're kind of like a tree anyway. But the cauliflowers, and I like to have them as close to the ground as possible, and when you plant them out again, you can sink them in deeper into the ground too as well, because you want them to kind of flare from the base of the ground. You don't want them to be,
so bury them
bury
as
them
deep as you can, but leave some stalks for the brocks.
And the tomatoes are picked out too as well. And it's interesting, there was some shortages on some of the tomatoes, and so I picked these all out, I guess last weekend as well. And then I noticed there was 2 more coming up in the flat, and so 4 more actually came up. It's interesting how some come up so late. So these I just pricked out today, and you can see the difference in height on them. Like the artichokes were like that too. I got 4 good artichokes, and then a week later, some more popped up in the flat. And the nice thing about tomatoes is that they really function well with burying them deep. So if they outgrow these pots before I can put them outside, I'll put them in a 5-inch pot and then bury them really nice and deep again, right to the bottom leaves. And then they'll get really nice, good root systems. These are Savoy cabbage. I like some of the Savoy cabbage for early cabbage because they're nice and crinkly, and to me, they're a little bit sweeter than the other cabbages. And they make a nice summer soup. They don't keep very well like the other cabbages, so I just grow 6 of them just for an early treat. And not so many Brussels sprouts because they produce so much on one plant.
You could be the go-to guy for when there's a Brussels sprout shortage
Yes.
at Thanksgiving.
And then I had a silly development here. I'm always looking for shortcuts. I had celery in this, and I pricked out the celery, and the surplus plants I just pulled out. And then, so I seeded my liatris in that. And so little plants kept coming up in here, and I thought, oh, those are celery. Because I was expecting liatris, because they have this long lanceolate leaf, to be like that. But then I noticed these were a little bit different than celery leaves. They're a little bit fatter. So the first leaves are a normal primary leaf, and then the next one comes up. So unfortunately, I hope I didn't pull out some of my liatris by mistake, thinking that they were just celery. But they had said it was going to be 28 days before they came up, and certainly wasn't 28 days, but at least I'm getting some Liatris, and I'm hoping more come up as time goes on. I should have dumped the flat out, mixed the soil in with other soil, and then refilled it up rather than trying to just use the flat the way it was.
Right. We planted with some compost last year, and we were getting some surprises.
Right, you would.
Yeah.
And then if you're not familiar with the seed leaves,
Yeah.
then it's hard to say what they are, and it gets confusing. But anyway, I'm pleased. I got the brassicas all on the go, and tomatoes and eggplants on the go, so things are moving along. So now we're in the cool grow room. So it's a nice transition from that really hot little room to the greenhouse outside, which is going to be much cooler. So it's a nice transition spot. So this has got peppers and spinach and parsley, but I also have some perennials. Now they were getting a little bit leggy, so I've been pinching them, and Jordan and I were discussing that. Now some things I pinch with my fingers, but these have kind of a woody stem, so I'm scissoring them.
Why do we pinch?
Well, they were getting really tall, and between the nodes, it was getting really long and leggy, and they were just kind of falling over. So I cut them back, and you can see they cut them back in various times. This one was just newly cut back, so there's no sprouts in there. But this one has been cut back before, and you can see sprouts coming up down here. So what it does is it makes them not so leggy, it makes them shorter in height, and then you get dormant buds that are in the nodes there growing, and so they become even thicker. So you get a nice stocky plant that way.
That won't fall over.
That won't fall over, yeah.
And more fruitful?
Yes, I guess it'd be, I don't know if it'd be more fruitful because you're not really making more tops, but it's a nice bushy plant anyway. It'll have more greenery to it rather than being too tall and leggy and long growth in between the nodes, in between the buds, the leaves.
Are these annuals or perennials?
These are perennials. So here's one I just topped, and then you can see there it's got new growth coming in there.
Okay, so here is where it got topped, and then right down here where the new growth is coming.
Yeah. And this one I had previously topped, but I was just being too generous on it. I didn't do it enough. So I'm going to top it a little bit more again. So I'm just going to go in there just above the leaves. And you can see there's the top there. So I'm just going to take that off. And now hopefully it's starting to fill in here a little bit more. We'll get a nice stockier, bushier plant. It's interesting, this is a named variety of, this is, what is it called? Indian Summer Rudbeckia. And then this one was just Rudbeckia fulgida. Some seeds that somebody gave me, not a named variety. And it's interesting how these guys here are much more compact in growing. It's interesting, the different varieties. So I haven't had to pinch these ones at all because they're nice and stocky, whereas these guys, the sort of more original strain, are a little bit more wilder, but a good growth habit to it.
Do you prefer to pinch with fingers or with scissors?
Usually I do, a lot of times I do fingers, like basil plants. They're easy to pinch because they're just a delicate, the stem is just very, not so woody. But on these plants here where it's a woody stem, then I'll definitely use the scissors because it's too hard to get a nice clean cut on it. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on the plant.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the last of the spinach for the cold frame.
Mm-hmm.
So the peppers I want to get out into the greenhouse very soon. I'm hoping to, next weekend, the weather warming up a bit, put them out in the cold frame. So I got to get them into the greenhouse so they transition to outdoors rather than taking them from here and putting them right into the cold frame.
Hardening.
Hardening, yes.
That's right.
Exactly.
I'm learning.
And those are beautiful. Those are little gaillardia.
Oh, yes.
And they're a nice drought-tolerant plant. Beautiful, showy, daisy-like blooms. These ones have Last year I could only get the variety that I have growing in Broadway. I can't remember the name of the variety, but it was only red colored. But these ones have the yellow and the red, so the contrast in the colors and the blooms is going to be gorgeous.
We'll see you on
I wish I had a bigger greenhouse because I would grow more of them. They're not easy to get for some reason. I don't know why some things are not that popular. Whereas they're, great plant, drought tolerant, blooms for a long period of time.
And with the heat coming.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they love that heat.
Huh.
So I'm hoping the greenhouses kind of pick up on that and grow more of them. And the parsley too, I want to get out soon. I almost put some out in the greenhouse today to start hardening it off, because I want to put some on the big pots, and then I have those juice containers that I cut the bottoms out of.
Mm-hmm.
So for my little mini greenhouses.
To make little collages.
Yes, so I wanted to get some going outside, and because I love parsley in cooking is really good in salads and soups. And
so refreshing.
Yeah.
And this is the tango celery.
Mm-hmm.
Looking delicious. Do you pinch celery?
No, I don't pinch celery, no.
Okay.
They come multiple stems from the base.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you had one main stem that gets bushier. And a few weeks ago I wasn't that happy with them. They were kind of leggy and falling over, so I buried them a little bit deeper, and then I did the fertilizing once a week. I did all my fertilizing today, and now they look great. And so that again will go out into the cold frame very soon. So the peppers and the celery will get out there hopefully next week. I just have to make room in the greenhouse for the hardening off.
Lovely.
Yep, so that's life in the grow room.
What's that tool called again?
Widger.
A widger. I would use the back of a knife or a spoon.
Mm-hmm. Nice recall. So now, if your brassicas or anything is leggy like this, these are my extras, and they got really quite leggy. But you can recover them by planting them deeper when you pick them up and put them into the 4-inch pot. But you can see we don't want to have it that long because look at this huge long stem. It's a little tricky. What I do is I fill up the pot one side.
And this is you mix this up.
That's right. It's got the Sunshine No. 4 and manure and Gaia Green fertilizer.
3 parts sunshine mix, 1 part manure, and then nice little healthy sprinkle of Gaia Green.
Right.
4-4-4.
But this I ended up mixing in the wheelbarrow because I was doing quantity.
Yeah.
So I wasn't quite so accurate. I would dump a bunch of Gaia Green or a bunch of sunshine in there, and then dump the appropriate amount of manure, I hoped. So
Oh yeah, you're a chef in the garden.
Then we're going to gently drop that down in there.
Nice and deep.
Yeah, and we want to try to have where the leaves come out of the stem, kind of at the surface there.
And this is a
red cabbage.
Red cabbage.
And there, and then we'll try to upright it. So it's still a little bit tall in there, but we'll have to just go with this one.
Can you mound it?
Yes, we will. That's why I'm going to keep putting soil around it now.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah. But so you can see it's way better than what it was.
Yeah, it's already standing up really nicely.
Yeah. So don't worry if your little seedlings. I was telling Joe I got a letter from the government one time, and I forgot what it was about, but anyway, they said, through no fault of your own, this is what happened to you. And so here we go. Through no fault of your own, your seedlings are leggy. And
a letter from the government, that just blows my mind.
yeah.
Why would
But I
they
thought,
send
that's very sweet of them. That was the nicest the government's ever been to me. There, actually that's pretty good now.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Right, red cabbage, you're on your way.
yeah. I've just saved these seedlings. I didn't want to throw them out. I have a friend that wants some vegetable starts, so I'm hoping I can have time maybe today after YouTube to do a little bit of potting up for her.
Nice.
And this will give it a shot of water.
Yeah. And this is water that you've let sit.
Yes, it's warmed up, and well, actually, I did take it warm from the sink, but it's handy here. I don't know how much chlorine goes out because of these narrow nicks here, but at least it's handy here for me to use. I don't have to go running up all the time when I'm busy doing a batch. So there we have a nice little red cabbage now.
Yeah, we don't have to film it, but okay, why not? Okay, I'll put you over there. So we're gonna put it outside, put it up, drop it down in. Just pack it down a little bit. So I'd like to try and have the little growing point exposed if I can, but if it's just a little covered, it's not a big deal because it will poke through. Don't think I'll even try to raise it up a little higher. Just go for it as. Okay, no, that one's nice and low.
Is this the cool greenhouse or the cool dude greenhouse?
The cool dude greenhouse.
Obviously. All right.
Hi, welcome to the cool dude greenhouse, as Joe would say, or otherwise known as the cool greenhouse. So it's a cool greenhouse because it doesn't have any supplementary heat. It's just what heat gets from here from the sun. So at nighttime it kind of cools off. I don't think it gets really frosty in here, but I don't have my annuals in here because it's kind of too cool for them. But these are all perennials that in the fall when I dug stuff up and divided, I potted a bunch of them up. And there's cool season grasses, and these are a cool season grass, so you can see how well they're doing. This is a Calamagrostis Eldorado. The variety is Eldorado because it's got yellow and green leaves. And I remember kind of Eldorado's kind of gold, so I think when I think of Eldorado, I think of gold and green leaves. And they're just gorgeous this time of year, just to see this beautiful flush of bright green leaves. Okay, so this is a Malinia grass, which is a short grass. Again, another bright yellow leaf to it, and a nice little seed head. And very attractive grass, well behaved. It doesn't run, so that's starting to grow too. So I'm really pleased with. Because some of these grasses are hard to find. Not this one. This is pretty common, but the Malinia is not that easy to find. And then I have a few panicums left over from last year, and that again is another beautiful grass. It's got a nice purple leaf to it, and a purple seed head, and just gives a nice variety of. You have some of that with some of this in the garden, and the gold and the purple. It's always a nice combination.
It says deer resistant too.
Yes, grasses are deer resistant. They're drought tolerant, so they're great. And then over here we have some pasque flowers, some pulsatilla. So that's again a really tough early bloomer. You can see the picture there, the blooms, and you can see it's got a nice fuzzy little growth to it, and I think they're so cute. And so when I want some early color, this is the one that I choose because it's a good perennial for that. So it's nice, got purple, and it's got a little bit of yellow in there too. So it's a beautiful little. At the New Market in New Denver, there we have a lot of these, and then with the daffodils, it's a nice spring show, and the heathers too as well there as well. So these are ones I just divided up and potted up, and they're doing really well. Because these were all outside in the wintertime, I dug them up, potted them up, just let them all outside. Early in the spring, as soon as the snow was gone, I brought them into here so they get an early start. And it's just a nice greenhouse for that. And underneath here, I got my dahlias up this morning. Again, part of emptying out the root cellar. And so I'm just starting to get them going. And what you want to do is, it's nice in here because it's protected. They're not going to get frozen in here. And then I just take the water and just kind of water them. And then that'll start them coming to life, and hopefully little sprouts will start growing on them. So that, and I have my acidanthus too. It's a bulb like a gladiola.
Oh, yeah. Gorgeous.
Yeah, and the dahlias are nice because they come in such a variety of colors. It's just, and there's different varieties. Like there's the dinner plates and the cactus ones. So they have all kinds of different forms and colors. So I had them last year on the waterfront at Spicer Garden, and they're really a success. People loved them, so I'm going to put them back down there again this year. So that's the cool greenhouse.
Toasty in here.
So now we're in the heated greenhouse, and this has a little heater in here, a little electric heater, and I just put it on at nights. And today was a wonderful day because it was kind of cool, and I didn't really want to open up the greenhouse, so it's nice when I'm home all day. I can monitor the greenhouse, and I left it shut. It didn't get too hot in here, which is a nice ambience for the zinnias and the peppers and that. But other days, we're all gone away working, so we kind of have to play it by ear, and sometimes it gets a little cool in here for stuff. And before I got the monitoring the heat right, we got a little bit of frost damage on some of the zinnias. I had to clip off some of the leaves. And again, here too, I topped them because you can see how tall they were. And so we don't want them that tall. So we topped them, and now they'll bush out more.
And I can see some action on the side of this little...
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the peppers are doing really well in their big pots.
Yeah, these are the 5-inchers.
Yep. And then I had a package of seeds. Somebody gave me some echinacea seeds. So from that little package of seeds, I got 4 flats I picked out maybe a couple weeks ago.
Lucky, these are gorgeous.
Yeah, so I really like them, yeah.
Do you ever use them, save any for medicinal?
No, I haven't done that. But I know people do make tinctures and that with them. Here's just some extra, I have extra parsley. I haven't quite figured out what to do, how to give that away yet, but I'm still thinking about it. And extra brassicas. Like cauliflower. This is a really nice cauliflower, so I didn't want to really throw it away, so I'll see. I'll talk to my friend Deb, who wanted some stuff, and maybe I can plant some up for her.
Minute.
And the artichokes are doing well. And yeah, these were the late ones that came up, these 3 here.
Oh, the little fashionably late.
Yeah. And the onions are thickening up.
Are you going to trim these guys? They're
I
looking
didn't
pretty
bother
tall.
today because they're not too bad. I thought I'd leave them until next week. I had a busy morning. Oh, and this is a geranium I wintered over under the lights, and it looks really good. And I just had a really big top there, so I just topped that and stuck that in water. And so yeah, so you like to cut them just below the node, the buds there, because that's probably where the roots will come out in the bottom there.
Right at where it would bud out?
Yeah, right where the leaves were. I just took cut it below the leaves, took the leaves off, and we'll stick that in water, and then that'll root, and I'll have 2 geraniums.
So I did have a question. We had like this Swiss cheese plant that was looking like it wanted to give up, and so we pulled it out. We just had it in water, and it was doing great for, I don't know, since July.
Right.
It's been doing great, and then we made the mistake of changing the water, and it all just like all the leaves started falling off.
Oh wow.
And so we had to trim it right at this, like, right at one of the nodes, and then put it in water, and hopefully we're going to save it. But
Right. Oh.
yeah, it was kind of excitement around the house.
Right. So this time of year, before I really get busy in the vegetable garden, I like to fertilize all the permanent plants like the rhubarb and strawberries and raspberries and blueberries and my asparagus especially. So I'm just doing the strawberries today, and what I do is I go through and clip all these runners off and clip all the old foliage off of them. And same thing here too, find out where the plants are. And once I've gone through the whole bed and got them all cleaned up, then I'll take my rake and I rake the mulch off. And then I put down some Gaia green and some manure. And then I have my trowel. And then so it's like this here. So it's all loosened up. Soil's all nice and loose and got fertilizer in it. And I'll go through too, and if there's some old plants too that I don't really think is doing very well, I take them out, and I've got some new babies that are sprouted all over the place, so I can put new ones in.
Replant them
Replant,
in
yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, they're sort of growing.
Yes, they're growing
all
all over
over.
the place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of new strawberries in our little
Nice. Yeah.
strawberry patch.
So I'm using them as a ground cover here. I've got my blackberries, which I'm espalieing along that fence. And this year the blackberries are going to be really, this is I think the 3rd year for these plants here. So you can see how big they are now. So I'm going to get a really good crop on them this year. And then across the way here, these are jostas. which are blackcurrant gooseberry cross. And you can see the huge buds on these guys are just looking great. So I moved them here 2 years ago. This bed here is quite rooty. I'm not sure where the roots are coming from, but it doesn't grow good vegetables. So I've converted it over to permanent crops. So I cut these back really hard a couple years ago to move them here because they were huge, and they're just kind of recovering now. And so this year I think I should have a good crop of jostas. And then the strawberries have been working nicely as a ground cover underneath there.
What's the importance of ground cover?
Well, it's just, for me, it's making use of space. So rather than having space here that's not being used, I have a big lot, but it's only a lot. So it's hard to have enough space to grow all the stuff that you really want to grow.
Right.
And be as self-sufficient as you can for food. And so, so ground cover is nice because it makes use of that space. So these crops are good. They're up high here and up high here, and there's all this space on the bottom here. So
Oh, so you got your vertical
yes, that's
as
right.
well as the ground cover.
Horizontal.
Got,
Yes,
got it.
Exactly.
Way to make space.
Yep, so I got those 2 strawberry patches done. I just have this one left to do, and then that's my strawberry patch done. You want a shot of carrots?
Yes. When did you plant these?
Late summer, fall. Yeah, so this was the last crop of carrots, and I just stuck them in there, and I had a bunch in the root cellar, so I just left them in the ground because I thought they'd keep better here, and they're actually not too bad. They're, yeah, they look quite nice.
Wow.
So yeah, so I got a little early spring crop of carrots. I'll probably start, I should go through and harvest them all because they're going to start sprouting pretty quick here. And harvest them and put them in the fridge.
See some charcoal.
Oh, they're not bad. Oh yeah, charcoal everywhere.
Oh, I see a little snail shell.
So a good sign of spring is all the little minor bulbs, and they're wonderful. If you can keep the deer off of them, that's the only problem. So these are the little winter aconite, the aranthus, and you can see how they're spreading here. So we're getting the big clump of them. And they spread over here, and yeah, there's just masses of them all over the place. So that's great. I love the bulbs that will naturalize and spread. And then next door is the irises.
Cut.
You can...
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Okay. Gotta get away from this rose bush.
These are the miniature irises, the Iris reticulata, and they come in different colors. There's the purples and blues. I love this deep purple. It's just so showy and so vibrant. And they come in yellow too, but there's yellow from the winter aconite, so I prefer to have the purples and the blues.
Stunning.
And if you can, it's nice to plant them in big clumps rather than just a few at a time. But I know it's expensive, but it just makes a nice show if you can have a big clump. And we're going to go down to Spicer Garden, and we're going to look at the Chionodoxa and the Scilla and the Pushkinia, also minor bulbs. So now we're down at Spicer Garden on the waterfront just to see the Chionodoxa, which are naturalizing here. So the first bulbs were the crocuses, and unfortunately the deer came along and ate them all. We had a few displays, but even with spring with the Bobex, with the rain we had, it wasn't successful with keeping them away from the deer. But the Chionodoxa, I don't know whether they don't eat them or I don't know what it is, but anyway, these are naturalizing just great. So they're just big swaths of color, and it's spreading every year more and more.
Naturalizing means spreading out?
Spreading out, yeah, making themselves at home, yeah, proliferating.
The bees seem to love them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and it just makes such a nice show down here when there's masses of them. And in spite, you know, I come in, I fertilize, and all these perennials all grow, but they still seem to survive in spite of our interference. Hi. Oh, hi, Rick. Let's go down to let's walk down the next one for the Pushkinia.
Sure.
Okay. So now, again, we're on the waterfront, and we're at the Rock Heather Rose Garden. And these are what Joe's looking at right now is the Scilla sibirica. And again, you can see how they've naturalized out over the years and just made themselves right at home. And again, it's very beautiful the way they spread out.
Say that again.
I really quite like that. I planted this beech tree, and I look at it, how big it is now, and that trunk is gorgeous. It's just like the waves in it and the grayness in it. So
When did you plant this?
as soon as we made the garden here. So I can't remember what year that was, but because originally I planted it with just a tiny little thing. We had the rose garden here, and then it got so big and shaded the rose garden, so I put the rhododendrons here instead and moved the rose garden over yonder.
It's magnificent.
Isn't it? Hello, tree. You've done very well. I'm very pleased with you. I'm a little disappointed with these rhododendrons. I really love rhododendrons, and so I ordered these and just specified the color and asked for hardiness. That they sent me, they were not that hardy. They're not as hardy as I wanted, but I had them, so I planted them anyway, and I just thought I'd see how they did. But I noticed this winter, mind you, they get lots of wind here off the lake, but there's some winter damage. So I'll see. I'm going to give them one more year, and if I don't get really successful blooms, I might have to put some new ones in, and because there's no point in having damaged goods.
Not at all. And what are these ones down here called?
Those are called Pushkinia.
Pushkinia. Oh, beautiful.
I love this beech tree, and if you love what you saw today, you can subscribe and like and ring the bell. Thank you, Joe.
Anytime. Yeah, of course. You're gonna hand those to the camera. So what are you gonna do with this cabbage?
Oh, I'm just gonna throw it in salad. You know, I mean, it's still just a little something, but
It is. It is.
it's still a little something.
It's something, yeah.